So the fact that I am sitting here in a navy blue business suit in the Capitol building, surrounded by my esteemed co-panelists, at a hearing about the First Amendment means something has gone very, very wrong. It was all fun and games until one night the president blocked me after I wrote a joke that hurt his feelings. I was confused at first and thought the account had mercifully been deleted, but it turned out that the man in the Oval Office couldn't take a joke and wanted to make sure he didn't have to hear one either. The Knight Foundation sued him to get him to unblock me and several others, without my involvement, though I thank them. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New York ended up having to rule on this, and the Supreme Court took the issue up too. He quite literally made a federal case of a joke.
Let that sink in for a second. A comedy writer, a woman who spent her life writing jokes about politicians for a late-night show, is sitting in the United States Capitol building testifying before Congress about the First Amendment. Because the President of the United States can't take a joke. That's where we are right now. A children's book author in a navy blue suit having to explain to Congress why a grown man in Oval Office needs to grow some thicker skin. The President of the United States just blocked a comedy writer just because she hurt his feelings. Not a threat, not misinformation, a joke. And when she got blocked, she assumed the account had been deleted because that seemed more likely than the actual President of the United States blocking her over a joke.
For late-night comedy writers, the president is our best and worst audience. He is our best audience because, unlike most Americans, he watches late-night television. He cares about what the network men in suits say about him. He is our worst audience because his inexplicably bruised skin is very, very thin. He complained about our jokes frequently, often in real time, on his own social media site he invented so that nobody could make fun of him on it.
He invented his own social media platform through social, and she just told Congress under oath exactly why he invented it, so that nobody could make fun of him. Think about that. The most powerful man on the planet, the man who launched a war in the Middle East, the man who controls the largest military in the universe, built his own website specifically so he wouldn't have to read jokes about himself. And he still watched the Jimmy Kimmel every night. His skin is so thin that you could read a newspaper through it.
The Trump administration denies responsibility for these cancellations, much as the mafia is continuously surprised that so many people end up in the East River with cement blocks on their feet. But what can we say? What we can say for sure is that this president that so prized free speech and so loathed censorship was positively giddy on Truth Social about the literal cancellation of these comedians. He was so excited, he misspelled the word canceled. The president wrote, "Great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy, Fallon, and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings also horrible. Do it, NBC. President DJT." Then he got back to authorizing strikes against ISIS in Syria.
This is the moment. This is what the title of this video about. Because she just stood up in the United States Congress and read Donald Trump's own words back to him out loud on the record. He wrote that post celebrating Kimmel's cancellation and then went straight back to authorizing military strikes in Syria. In the same sitting, canceled the comedy show and bombed a country back to back. Like they were items on to-do list. And she compared him to the mafia under oath in Congress, and nobody in that room could argue with her.
These permanent and temporary cancellations aren't just about controlling jokes. They're about controlling criticism of the administration and its corporate bedfellows. It is the state using its power to shape what is profitable to say. And we've learned nothing if not this. The bottom line comes first, even before the First Amendment.
This is not about jokes anymore. He said it directly and clearly under oath. This is about the government using its power to what is profitable to say. When a president can make it financially dangerous for a network to air criticism of him, that's not a free market anymore. That's not free speech anymore. This is a government deciding what you are allowed to hear. And she said it. The bottom line comes first, even before the First Amendment in America in 2026.
There is no doubt that the president is so personally bothered by what comedians say that the FCC is willing to disappear any mouthpieces that might hurt his feelings in a shocking, and according to people with many more degrees and expertise than I, unconstitutional way.
The FCC, the government agency, is being used to silence comedians who hurt president's feelings. Not foreign threats, not national security, jokes. The government is disappearing TV shows because the host made a fun president. And she said the word that everyone else has been too scared to say out loud. Unconstitutional. Under oath in Congress. And Trump never addressed it. Not once.
The book is about a buffalo who is at first tough and blustery and rude and pushes his friends away. And then when it is revealed that underneath all his fluff, he is just a tiny, frightened guy who wants to be loved, his friends support him anyway. They love him just as he is. And he gives them gratitude and kindness right back. It's just left-wing commie propaganda. I believe that the impulse to censor free speech comes from exactly the fear in the book. The fear of being seen as weak or vulnerable. The fear of being seen as weak or vulnerable. The desire to project an air of bravado and to silence and push off anyone who might pull the curtain back on that image of imperious strongman. A true leader is only as strong as the joke he can take at his own expense. And there is nothing funny about the fact that we are living through a time when a joke about the government is a liability.
She wrote a children's book about a buffalo who acts tough and blustery and pushes everyone away. And underneath all that fluff, he's just a tiny, frightened guy who wants to be loved. And she read that book to thousands of kids across America in Kansas and Missouri, Texas and Montana. And then she stood up in the Congress and said, a true leader is only as strong as the joke he can take on his expense. She didn't need to say his name. Every single person in that room knew who she was talking about. A tiny, frightened guy who wants to be loved. That's the most devastating thing someone said in years about President Trump. And she said it with a smile.
I think we know why the Buffalo Fluffalo in the Oval Office is mad.
One sentence. That's all it took. I think we know why the buffalo fluff in the Oval Office is mad. The entire room went silent because she just called the President of the United States frightened, tiny little buffalo that who wants to be loved. And there's nothing he can do about it. He can't block her. He can't cancel her show. He can't send the FCC after a children's book, right? And the whole world just watched.